In a world before Steve Harvey was on TV 32 times a day, the Zarflepus family appeared on Family Feud in 1991. Unbeknownst to their opponents, Clark Zarflepus and his family were about to leave the whole nation baffled. They're about to play the best-worst Family Feud of their lives. Their opponents were the Booth family. Clark stepped up for the bullseye round, and the first question asked, name something a teacher might take away from a pupil. Clark yells out the completely incomprehensible statement, check your wings for gum. Maybe he was a bird in a previous life. Inexplicably, that utter nonsense earned his family $1,000 to play for in fast money. Name something for which you might have to take a physical exam. In all her infinite wisdom, Esther comes up with Jump on Bob. That's another $2,000 for the Zarflepus family. But what Bob did to deserve being jumped on is beyond me. I also don't have the faintest clue who Bob is, but that's okay. Next up, the host Ray Combs asks Jessica and, who cares-ica, what kind of people most babies are named after. I have no clue what a fact manner is, but Jessica seems vaguely clairvoyant, so I'll take her word for it. That's another $3,000. Next up was Steve, who was asked to name something that was once a luxury but is now a necessity. Now, Steve's a real gentleman, so his family was surprised to hear Clark Sucks come out of his mouth. And the audience was even more surprised when that earned the Zarflepie another $4,000. That's the plural of Zarflepus, I decided. Name a kind of item for which you'll never change brands. Well, obviously the top answer is solving a puzzle. Duh. That brought the bullseye round to a close, with the Zarflepus family sweeping every answer. No clue how, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Surely their complete nonsense answers would fail them during the main rounds though, right? Wrong. Name something that lets off steam. Apparently our protagonist's favorite steaming things are Team Kettlecorn, Cloudy Thesaurus ironically, Tour of Spain's... Whoop, looks like Jessica fell asleep during her answer. Pressure cooker. And steak men gain eggs. They swept the board without getting a single strike. And to cut a long story short, this went on for a while. Clark and company gave nonsense answer after nonsense answer, winning the game before the Booth family knew what hit them. In the fast money round, Clark came out and scored over 200 points, winning the round by himself. Let's see what his answers were. Vegan eats table, $1 million question, physical Ian, gooey dog grades, and car. Lovely. That won the Zarflepus family $20,000, but that's not where the story ends. I mean, obviously, these guys screamed gibberish for half an hour and somehow won. Something's gotta be afoot. Following the episode, the host Ray Combs was quoted saying some unsavory things. Fans rushed to Twitter trying to make sense of what they just watched. 15 years after Twitter was founded. Don't worry about it. Due to suspicions of cheating, the Zarflepus family didn't return as champions the next day. Nobody was sure what they did, but the show kicked them off to avoid being embarrassed a second time. Word about the incident spread quickly among game show production companies, and the Zarflepus family was effectively banned from other game shows moving forward. Meanwhile, speculation ran rampant among the show's staff and Family Feud fans. Did the family know somebody who worked for the show? Was there bribery involved? Did they find a way to rig the board themselves, maybe? Well, no. Alright, time to be semi-serious. Good morning, fellas, and welcome back to Me Plays Games. My name is Matt, and what you just witnessed was me taking Family Feud for the Super Nintendo and beating it to a pulp. The game was also released on the Sega Genesis around the same time, but I played the Super Nintendo version for this video. On Family Feud, the questions are open-ended, so the video games have mechanisms in place to make spelling less of an obstacle. Modern Feud games have an autocomplete system, where you type in a few letters, and the game will suggest some answers for you. So if you forget the exact spelling of a word, the game's got you covered. Earlier Family Feud games don't have this system though. You have to type out the whole answer yourself, but the text recognition system in this version is way more lenient than you might expect, which is how I got all the answers right despite barely speaking English. Let's go back to the first question. Name something a teacher might take away from a pupil. The answer I gave was check your wings for gum, which might sound like some kind of bird PSA, but check this out. Yup, the game can interpret all of that as chewing gum. The next question was what might you have to take a physical exam for? Jump on Bob translates to job, and the same goes for the other three answers. Fact manners is actors, Clark Sucks is car, and solving a puzzle is soap. Wow, that might be the least comprehensible sentence I've ever said in my life. The game is just checking to see if all the letters are in the right order, but they don't actually care if there's anything else in between. So as long as my answer has the letters J, O, and B somewhere in that order, the game can read it as job. And that comes into play in all my other answers. $1 million question isn't a measure of distance, but a mile is. A tour of Spain doesn't let off steam, but a train might. I would hope you don't have to clean up after your seal friend, but it's important to pick up after yourself. As I learned during my testing for this video though, they do expect you to type in numbers exactly right. At what age does a child get a real bed? Well, if you're 33 billion years old and you still sleep in a crib, you might be entitled to financial compensation. Call the number on your screen to learn more. As you can probably imagine, I was hoping the game would read that as 3. This is just one of the few things the game does to make scoring easier. In this tool-assisted run, we can see stealing my only ukulele get accepted, because the game is able to read it as smoking. All the letters in smoking are in that answer, but they're in the wrong order. This is where their second mechanism comes into play. The game actually detected the word smoke here, which is spelled out in order in this answer. They've got a list of answers that are close enough, and since smoke and smoking are forms of the same verb, they're considered matches for each other. Similarly, bathing suit and swimsuit are also interchangeable, and cheese is considered a match for cream cheese. There's another quirk the Zarfalpus family didn't take advantage of today. The game ignores doubled letters entirely. So if you spell bulldozer with one L, or strawberry with one R, or moon with one O, the game still considers it a correct spelling. In a similar vein, some other vowels don't get checked either, so you can get away with spelling, say, peanut without the A. I think the modern Family Feud games are, like, objectively better to play, because the autocomplete system makes it more convenient. If I want to play the game straight up, I'm gonna boot up my Switch. It's not a perfect game, but the autocomplete system is nice, because you don't have to scramble to type the whole answer before time runs out. But boy howdy, the Super Nintendo version is always gonna be my favorite. It's just so much fun coming up with complete nonsense that'll still score you points. And this is a good example of a game that's broken, but it's broken in ways that make it more fun. It's like Mario Kart Wii in that way. Over the years, that game has been absolutely torn to shreds. All sorts of shortcuts have been discovered, many of which weren't intentional. And the checkpoint system the game has is really weird, so that opens the door to ultra shortcuts. I loved Mario Kart Wii growing up, and I love Super Nintendo Family Feud for similar reasons. So I think calling it the best worst game is fair. I called it the best because I have a lot of fun with it, but I'm also calling it the worst because this is very much not how the game devs expect you to have fun with it, and because of how easily and thoroughly you can tear it to shreds. This isn't really a showcase of glitches or oversights or anything, it's more of a side effect of the mechanics that are working as intended. It's good that you won't get penalized for spelling buzz with 3 Z's, or pluralizing a noun that doesn't need to be pluralized. Don't get me wrong, Family Feud is a good format on its own, but this game takes it to another level, albeit somewhat unintentionally. Well, that'll do it for this video. It's a little bit different from the stuff I usually make, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. If there's any other game show video games you'd like to see me talk about, leave a comment and let me know. I'll see you all next time. Good night, fellas. Sleep well.